I'm gonna be reading chapter 9 of Pride and Prejudice. Let's start. Yeah. Elizabeth passed the chief of the night in her sister's room, and in the morning had the pleasure of being able to send a tolerable answer to the inquiries which she very early received from Mr. Bentley by a housemaid, and some time afterwards from the two elegant ladies who waited on his sisters. In spite of this amendment, however, she requested to have a note sent to Longbourn, desiring her mother to visit Jane and form her own judgment of her situation. The note was immediately dispatched, and its contents as quickly complied with. Miss Bentley, accompanied by her two younger sisters, reached Netherfield soon after the family breakfast. Had she found Jane in any apparent danger, Miss Bennet would have been very miserable, but being certified on seeing her that her illness was not alarming, she had no wish of her recovering immediately, as her restoration to health would probably move her from Netherfield. She would not listen therefore to her daughter's proposal of being carried home. Neither did the apothecary, who arrived about the same time, think it at all advisable. After sitting a little while with Jane on Miss Bingley's appearance and invitation, the mother and three daughters all attended her into the breakfast parlor. Bentley met them with hopes that Mrs. Bennet had not found Miss Bennet worse than she expected. "Indeed I have, sir," was her answer. "She is a great deal too ill to be moved. Mr. John says we must not think of moving her. We must pass a little longer on your kindness." "Remove," cried Bentley. "It must not be thought of. My sister, I am sure, would not hear of her removal." "You may depend upon it, madam," said Bentley with cold civility, "that Miss Bennet shall receive every possible attention while she remains with us." Mrs. Bennet was profuse in her acknowledgments. "I am sure," she added, "if it was not for such good friends, I do not know what would become of her, for she is very ill indeed, and suffers a great deal, though with the greatest patience in the world, which is always the way with her, for she has without exception the sweetest temper I ever met with. I often tell my other girls they are nothing to her. You have a sweet room here, Mr. Bentley, and a charming prospect over the gravel walk. I do not know a place in the country that is equal to Netherfield. You would not think of quitting in a hurry, I hope, though you have but a short lease." "Whatever I do is done in a hurry," replied he, "and therefore if I should resolve to quit Netherfield, I should probably be off in 5 minutes. At present, however, I consider myself as quite fixed here." "That is exactly what I should have supposed of you," said Elizabeth. You begin to comprehend me, do you? He cried he, turning towards her. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, I understand you perfectly. I wish I might take this for a compliment, but to be so easily seen through, I am afraid is pitiful. That is as it happens. It does not necessarily follow that a deep, intricate character is more or less estimable than such a one as yours. Lizzie, cried her mother, remember where you are, and do not run on in the wild manner that you are suffered to do at home. I did not know before, continued Bentley immediately, that you were a studier of character. It must be an amusing study, yes, but intricate characters are the most amusing. They have at least the advantage that the country, said Darcy, can in general supply but few subjects for such a study. In a country neighborhood, you move in a very confined and unvaried society, but people themselves utter so much that there's something new to be observed in them forever. Yes, indeed, cried Mrs. Bennet, offended by his manner of mentioning a country neighborhood. I assure you that there's quite as much of that going on in the country as in the town. Everybody was surprised, and Darcy, after looking at her for a moment, turned silently away. Mrs. Bennet, who fancied she had gained a complete victory over him, continued her triumphant. I cannot see that London has any great advantage over the country for my part, except the shops and public spaces. The country is a vast deal pleasanter, is Mr. Bentley? When am I in the country? He replied. I never wish to leave it, and when I am in town, it's pretty much the same. They have such advantages, and I can be equally happy in other. Aye. That is because you have the right disposition. But that gentleman, looking at Darcy, seemed to think that the country was nothing at all. Indeed, Mamma, you are mistaken, said Elizabeth, blushing for her mother. You quite mistook Mr. Darcy. He only meant that there were not such a variety of people to be met with in the country as in the town, which you must acknowledge to be true. Certainly, my dear, nobody said there were. But as to not meeting with many people in this neighborhood, I believe there are few neighborhoods larger. I know we dine with 24 countries. Nothing but concern for Elizabeth could enable Bentley to keep his conscience. His sister was less delicate and directed her eyes towards Mr. Darcy with a very impressive smile. Elizabeth, for the sake of saying something that might turn her mother's thoughts, now asked her if Charlotte Lucas had been at Longbourn since her coming away. Yes, she called yesterday with her father. What an agreeable man Sir William is, Mr. Bentley. Is it not he? So much that the man of fashion, so genteel and so easy. He has always something to say to everybody. That is my idea of good breeding, and those persons who fancy themselves very important and never open their mouth quite mistake the matter. Oh, let's continue. Did Charlotte dine with you? No, she will not go. I fancy she wanted about the mince pies. For my part, Mr. Bentley, I always keep servants that can do their own work. My daughters are brought up differently, but everybody is to judge for themselves. And the Lucases are very good sort of girls, I assure you. It is a pity they are not handsome. Not that I think Charlotte so very plainly, but then she's our particular friend. She seems very pleasant young woman, said Bentley. Oh dear, yeah. But you must own she is very plain. Lady Lucas herself has often said so, and envied me Jane's beauty. I do not like to boast to my own child, and to be sure, Jane, one does not often see anybody better looking. It is what everyone says. I do not trust my own partiality. When it was only 15, there was a gentleman at my brother's gardener's in town so much in love with her that my sister-in-law was sure he would make her an offer before we came away. But, however, he did not. Perhaps he thought he was too young. However, he wrote some verses on her, and very pretty they were, and so ended his affection, said Elizabeth impatiently. There had been many a one, I fancy, overcome in the same way. I wonder who first discovered the efficacy of poetry in driving away love. I've been used to consider poetry as the food of love, said Darcy. Oh, fun spouse, healthy love it made. Everything nourishes what is strong already, but if it be only a slight, thin sort of inclination, I am convinced that one good sonnet would starve it entirely away. Darcy only smiled, and the general pause was ensued, made Elizabeth trembled lest her mother should be exposing herself again. She longed to speak, but could think nothing to say. And after a short silence, Mrs. Bentley began repeating her thanks to Mr. Bentley for his kindness to Jane, with an apology for troubling him, also with Lizzie. Mr. Bentley was unaffectedly civil in his answer, and forced his younger sister to be civil also, and say what the occasion required. She performed her part indeed, without much graciousness, but Mrs. Bennet was certified, and soon afterwards ordered her carriage. Upon the signal, the youngest of her daughter put herself forward. The two daughters have been whispering to each other during the whole visit, and the night of it was that the youngest should task Mr. Bentley with having promised on his first coming into the country to give a ball at Netherfield. Lydia was stout, well-grown girl of 15 with a fine complexion and good-mannered countenance, a favorite with her mother, whose affection had brought her into public at early age. She had high animal spirits and a sort of natural self-constance with the attentions of the officers, to whom her uncle's good dinners and her own easy manners recommended her, and had increased into and had increased into assurance. She was very equal, therefore, to address Mr. Bailey on the subject of the ball, and abruptly reminded him of his promises, adding that he would be the most shameful thing in the world if he did not keep it. His answer to this sudden attack was delightful to their mother's ear. I'm particularly ready, I assure you, to keep my engagement, and when your sister is recovered, you shall, if you please, to name a very day of the ball. You would not wish to be dancing while she is ill. Lydia discovered herself certified. Sorry. Oh yeah, it would be much better to wait till Jane was well. By the time, most likely, Captain Carter would be at Meryton again, and when you have given your ball, she added, I shall insist on their giving one also. I shall tell Colin Foster it would be quite a shame if he did not. Mrs. Bennet and her daughters then dispatched, and Elizabeth returned instantly to Jane, leaving her own and her relation's behavior to the remarks of two ladies and Mr. Bennet, and the latter of whom, however, could not be prevailed on to join in their censure of her, in spite of all Miss Bailey's witticism on fine eyes. Okay, wow. Let me see if I can read this. Well, I can read it tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow I'll read this. Yeah, I'm done. I did well. Yeah, it's like small, like improvements, small, little by little. If I keep reading, then I'll see, like, I'll do well. I think I did well. Yeah, I still need to work on my breath and like my pacing and pronunciations. Yeah. Yeah, I'm done. Thank you so much. Bye bye.